Hello folks, welcome to week 9 of learning how to draw. Now, this week, this is the big one. This is the hardest one. This is the 4-point perspective. It took me a couple of times to figure out the rules, but now I figured it out. It's actually really fun and really therapeutic. It's a bit like a mandala where you kind of just go round and round and follow the rules, follow the pattern each time. So grab a ruler. I, of course, forgot. Well, lost mine. Grab your pencil, and you're probably going to make mistakes. You might sit there and be like, China, what are you talking about? But the best way to learn is by watching it. So pause it, pause it, rewind it, and then try again. Okay, folks, best of luck. Big one. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you've done. Okay, deep breaths before we start. This is a big one, and you might need to pause and rewind. So let's go. So the 4-point perspective is probably, as you guessed, it has 4 vanishing points. So in order for us to draw this shape, we want to draw those 4 vanishing points in a square. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm just using my pencil as a measuring guide. You might find it easier to use a ruler, but you may already know that I am rubbish at finding my rulers. So I've kind of made it hard for myself. But what I'm essentially doing is trying to make sure the gaps are equal from the edge of the page to the corner, and from the top and the bottom of the page to the corner as well, or to the vanishing point. That's probably an easier way to visualize that right now. So once you've done that, I just want you to join these lines up. It's super useful for the shape we're going to draw, but I wouldn't say you necessarily always have to do this in a 4-point perspective. But for this one, we will do it. Once we've done that, I want you to measure a distance from the center out towards each vanishing point and just pop a little mark, because this is going to make sure our lines and our shape is very equal. So just work away around there, and then you should have like 2 dots on one line essentially. Now, this is where you need to focus a bit more. So I plot my ruler on that second dot and then tilt the ruler towards a vanishing point, and you'll see that I'm heading towards that big gap in the middle. So they should cross roughly, I did it wrong there, roughly in the middle of that space. So that means ruler goes on that new measurement that you've done from the center and also on the vanishing point, and then you draw the lines in the middle. So it looks a little bit like, the best way I can describe it is actually a wet cardboard box, and I have nothing else in my brain to describe this shape, but it's weird. It's not quite a hexagon or an octagon. God, I'm really bad with words. Or I'm really bad with the words of the shapes. So hopefully you can see what I mean when I'm looking at this point. So pause the video if you need, and then pop them on there. Once we've got that, we want to chop off the corners. So I get my ruler on one of the vanishing points, and to the right and the left of it, I just want to get roughly a centimeter. So I'll take this measurement that I've done, and I'll just make sure I'm doing the same size on the other axis. So get my ruler on that vanishing point, find that length that I just did, and then draw across there. So you end up with this like weird chunk coming out of each corner, and it's not a perfect square. Don't expect to see like perfect squares in the corners, but what we're doing is trying to carve into the shape a bit more so we can see it better and create some anchors. So work your way around the shape and do that same process. Make it about a centimeter from that perspective line, and then get your next perspective line from the neighboring vanishing point to that cross line that we first started with. When I'm saying this, I'm like, this makes no sense, but I'm really hoping that the visuals make a lot more sense. So let's get that done, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so let's just rub out that corner that we've made, which are on the cross lines. So we don't need to see these. This is starting to define our Rubik's cube, so we can get rid of those, and you can start to see a little bit more of the shape. So now what we have are 8 corners where we've rubbed out that little square. And what we want to do is get our line, our perspective line, on the vanishing point and the corner, and that's going to dictate where the crossing happens for our top layer of squares. So work your way around, putting your ruler on the vanishing point and that corner, and the line should be heading inside the shape. Nothing should be outside or crossing any lines that we've just done. The new lines should cross to create a point. So you should have something like this. Now what we want to do is join our new corner to the center of our piece. So mine's a tiny bit wonky, which means something is off. And it was probably because I didn't have a ruler and the measurements might be slightly off. But this really should be crossing fairly straight. If it's not like mine, honestly, it's not the end of the world because you're following the rules. And when we follow rules, good things happen. Now, it's starting to come together. So what do we want to do next? We want to try and figure out the gaps between each of our Rubik's Cubes. So they're not going to be equal in size. Instead, the biggest gap will be between the center of this shape and the first line. Each gap after that will get a little bit smaller because it heads towards the vanishing point. So once I marked my 3 lines I was happy with, the distances between them, I then just made a little note on my ruler and I repeated those measurements all the way through. So it's basically giving me an anchor to make sure every single side will have exactly the same size points. So again, work your way around using this measurement, making sure that the strips will get smaller as they head towards the vanishing point, and just repeat those sizes on all 4 sides of your drawing. Next, all you need to do is join those dots to the vanishing point. So you're rotating from the vanishing point and you're meeting those little marks that you've made, and you should start to see these strips get smaller as they head towards the vanishing point. If it doesn't, I have no idea what you've done. Well, because I can't see it. But if you do need help, then feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to help you, especially when something like this is so challenging. It's like, where do I start? And I think some people, this may not come naturally to them. Some people it will. So I'm more than happy to help those of you who are struggling, because in all honesty, I really struggled with this as well. I was like, where do I start? But it was fun. So work your way around and your lines should be crossing so that it looks like squares. They won't be squares, obviously, because we have perspective, but they should look like squares. So work your way around and we're nearly there with the outline, folks. Fabulous. Okay, so let's work on those little crevices that creep down the square. I don't know why I'm saying it creeps down. Anyway, what I want to do is I want to make sure the angle is matching the center. So I reach the end of the line on that outer face, and then I want to match the line in the center so that it's all basically the same angle. And this is the best way to work with this shape, especially when an edge kind of like stops and goes down the other side. It's a bit like a curb. You want everything to be in line and to work, so you want to match your angles. So work your way around this one, and if you find your outer angle is slightly out, because we did do it the proper way, just give it a little tweak like I did, because some things, even if you follow the rules, don't 100% work. And it's very rare that it happens. But I think in a situation like this, you kind of have to think, well, what actually looks better? Okay, it's by making all the angles match the center line. And, you know, I did come across a problem at the beginning, not the beginning, sorry, but when I crossed my central bit. So this is probably why I'm having to tweak it. But you might have done way better than me. You might not need to do it at all, and you might be like, China, it's all lined up anyway. But, you know, we all make mistakes, so gotta live with them. Okay, keep working on the inside. Match the angle of your central cross, and then just tidy up the edges if you think you need to. Wowee. I mean, look at that. That is a beast. It did take me a couple of goes to figure this out. So if you have taken a bit of time as well, that is absolutely fine. And well done. Oh my goodness. Well bloody done. I bet your brain hurts, but you're going to feel really good for this tomorrow. You'll have like DOMs for your brain. Bombs? No, we can't say that. Anywho, the next stage is shading. So you need to decide the rules and what you're going to do. It's hard with this shape because the lighting source, well, it's in 4D. I don't know if you can say it's 4D because it's still 3D, but it's 4 points of perspective. So I feel like 4D. Anyway, it doesn't matter, China. You want to think about your lighting and where the edges are facing and whether you want them to be darker or lighter. So you can watch mine or you can look at the picture and just decide to copy mine. I think it works well. Or you can make your own rules. But the most important thing is contrast. So seeing that there's dark next to light and none of your faces are looking the same. So do work your way around the faces on the inside, the outside, underside, all the sides. Trying to get a nice contrast. And I would say as well to make the lines really dark just so it can stand out, and it's hopefully going to be really nice and really cool that you can see that, because we want to see the hard work you've put in. We want to see your achievement. So yeah, have some fun with the shading. You've done the hard work. This part should be really nice and really fun. So there we go, the beast. That's what it should be called. Now I do have a couple of exercises that I call the beast, but that is definitely one of them. Well done if you got to the end. If you didn't, I totally get it. It is challenging, but it's great. Like being able to draw in 4D. Wow. Will we ever use it in artwork? Probably not. But you can do it, so that's great. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. Do let me know if you ever want to show me your work. I'd love to help and give some feedback. And if not, hopefully I'll see you next week for week 10 or 9. I can't remember.